is I think the United States has to come back to Latin America with a message. It's not enough to come to Latin America and say, don't trade with China, don't buy arms from Russia, don't focus, like kick out the Iranians and the Cubans. That's obviously fine, and I think it's, you can say that, but we have to promote something ourselves. We have to sell something ourselves. The Latin Americans are looking for an ally that has a message, that has a broader vision of what the hemisphere should look like, and we can't be shy about that. And I think the aspect of, and late last year in December they had this. President Biden had the Summit for Democracy. And I thought that was a missed opportunity, because the narrative ended up becoming who you invited and who you didn't invite, rather than actually helping define what is democracy. Because, we call it an authoritarian wave, but none of these guys call themselves authoritarians. There's like President Castillo doesn't say I'm an authoritarian, or Xi Jinping even, or Vladimir Putin doesn't say I'm an authoritarian. So they're not defending authoritarianism. What they're doing is they're using the term democracy and bastardizing the term, but they're actually authoritarians. And so we have to define the difference. What is our interpretation of democracy that's starkly different than what China, Russia, Iran, Peru, Venezuela, Nicaragua, or whoever defines on democracy? And I think Latin America, we have to remember, it's only had about 200 years, a period. There's most of the countries celebrating the bicentennial of democracy. They gained their independence about 200 years ago, and many of them had dictatorships that lasted into the 20th century. So they're kind of new into this experience of democracy. So the point of the article, and I'll conclude with this, was that we have to go beyond just talking about the term democracy, which has become bastardized in many respects. And we have to talk about the pillars that uphold a healthy democracy, such as individual liberty, such as the rule of law, such as national sovereignty. That's a concept that oftentimes gets lost, especially on some of my fellow libertarians. And we have to be able to remind people that there's pillars that make a democracy function, especially in a representative democracy, that's a vast different vision than what China might call a democracy, or even Iran calls a democracy, because they just define it by election night, 50+1, a simple majority, which is basically a tyranny of the majority. And so that was the point of the article. That's the point of the message. And I think it's time for America to really project this into the hemisphere. We can't be shy about it. Of course, there was some stuff that happened in the past that, the United States probably mishandled in the region, but that shouldn't make us shy about actually confronting what is tyrannical governments in the world that are in Latin America and that are propping up tyrannical governments in the region. Because I tell you, at the end of the day, what's the end game? What's Russia, what's China, what's Iran's end game in Latin America? It's very simple. They're trying to turn Latin Americans against the United States, so that Latin America becomes inhospitable for Americans to travel, to trade, to feel safe in a region where we live. It's our neighborhood. And so we have to be very conscious of that. So thank you, Frank. Thank you, everybody, once again. And I hope we have a little bit more back and forth with the Q&A.